Hospital loses piece of patient's skull and charges him $19,000. I think I'm on to something. This is definitely disgusting and malpractice. Atlanta Black Star with the details. Atlanta man Fernando Cluster and his wife, Melinda Cluster, they're suing Emory University Hospital Midtown after a series of alleged errors, including the loss of part of his skull and a $19,000 charge for a faulty synthetic replacement that led to infection. It caused permanent injuries, inability to work, $150,000 in medical debt. Lawsuit seeks damages for negligence, ongoing suffering, unnecessary medical bills. Boy, there's a lot I could say. Maybe I will. His lawyer, Cole Delaire, told Law and Crime the trouble began nearly 2 years ago. That was when Cluster was admitted to the hospital September 2022 after he passed out and fell. Court documents obtained by Atlanta Black Star revealed he was diagnosed with a brain bleed. He underwent a brain surgery known as decompressive hemicraniectomy. Did I say that right, Tehran? I know you have medical professionals in your family. Does that sound right or play it off?
That sounded perfect. I felt like you could be in Grey's Anatomy.
Really?
And a couple episodes of House, the way you pronounce it. That was
okay.
With millions watching and many people benefiting from this program called Indisputable, we just need 1% of the viewers to become a paid member so we can continue to bring this content to you. Now back to the show.
Well, I'll go on. I'll tell you more about this because this is really something. It included removing a part of his skull, a bone flap, it's called, that measured 4.7 inches to 5.91 inches. And that's done to ease swelling. It's really an emergency. They got to let the brain contract. All right, now I'm going too far. I have no medical training, but I think that's why they do it. Then they're going to put it back after things heal up a little bit. I added that. Once he recovered from the surgery, he was scheduled to have his bone flap re-implanted. You see that? During a cranioplasty. Okay, November 11th, 2022. Under the best of circumstances, the procedure comes with risk of infection, complications, but no one could have imagined the mix-up that he claims happened. Here are the details. Emory personnel here could not identify the plaintiff, Mr. Cluster's bone flap, read the complaint. When Emory personnel went to retrieve the bone flap, there were several bone flaps with incomplete or missing patient identification. And therefore, Emory could not be certain which, if any of these, belonged to Mr. Cluster. Again, stated in the court documents. Now, the lawsuit states that ultimately the hospital could not find the piece of his skull. They lost a piece of him. They removed it. So they canceled his surgery until a synthetic replacement could be made. And in the meantime, Cluster was forced to stay at the hospital for nearly 2 additional weeks until November 23rd, when the synthetic replacement was finally implanted in his skull. Hard to watch the pictures, but imagine what he went through. The complaint says, however, that as a result of Emory's negligence, Mr. Cluster subsequently suffered an infection in the synthetic flap, thereby necessitating an additional surgery. Lawsuit claims that even after its negligent failure, the hospital charged their patient not only for the bone flap, but for the extra time he was forced to stay in the hospital and for the subsequent surgery. His ordeal is ongoing. Delaire, his attorney, told Law and Crime that he is still recovering from the infection at home. Lawsuit also includes a type of personal injury claim called a loss of consortium from his wife, Melinda, alleging she has been deprived of love, society, companionship. It is shocking that a medical provider like Emory would lose part of one of its patients' skulls, then refuse to accept responsibility. That's from the attorney. Emory University Hospital System is a highly regarded teaching hospital staffed by Emory University School of Medicine faculty and was ranked the best in-state hospital by Newsweek in 2024. And you might want to go on and revoke that. Another local hospital in the system, Emory St. Joseph's Hospital of Atlanta, also made recent headlines in local news for very different reasons. November 2023, a year earlier, around the time of Cluster's second surgery, a jury ordered the hospital to pay a Georgia mother $38.6 million in one of the biggest medical malpractice cases in the hospital's history. The lawsuit accused medical staff of overlooking a scan that could have saved the mother's 20-year-old son, Trevon Folsom, while he was undergoing a heart transplant in 2017. The plaintiff in the hospital subsequently reached a post-verdict settlement in December. Leonard Blackstar filling in the details here. Listen, if you're going through the drive-through, I think if your only job is you're taking orders, you're not going to be perfect, but you should be good. If you're taking out a piece of someone's skull, that's a body part, you have to be 100%. You have to follow protocols. See, I think there are mistakes, and then I think there's willful misconduct. Somebody didn't follow protocol here. Couldn't have. You couldn't have. Somebody just said, put them over there with the rest of the bone flaps. You mean pieces of people's skulls? I don't think I'm being too hard here. I don't have the medical training that someone in your family does, Tehran, but I don't think I'm being too hard. There are just some jobs where protocol is everything. It's the difference between life and death, quality of life, loss of companionship. As this way, I don't even think that's too much. I think it's right. Go for all of it, because he's still recovering, and who knows if he'll ever be back. What say you?
I say healing is an art, medicine is a profession, but healthcare is a business. And that's exactly what the problem is with the healthcare system in the United States, because it's treated as a business, except in this case, there wasn't even good customer service because they tried to charge him for the loss of his piece of bone flap, which, by the way, I bought on Craigslist right now. Somebody put it up and I just bought it. We don't know where that piece ended up. That's not a normal thing. This would never happen in any other major country medical center. A bone flap cranioplasty is not just any procedure. This is one where it should be careful. The people should be organized. We should know better. We've done this. Sure, there are mistakes, but this didn't seem like a mistake. Why? Because there were other pieces of bones in a pile of bones, which none of them were labeled. So this means that this has happened to so many other people, except Fernando and Melinda Cluster were just super highly affected by it, and or the only ones who had a little bit of pushback. When we see these malpractice lawsuits against the medical companies, a lot of us as the audience look at it as if it's a lottery, but it's not. It's usually a life. And so, no, that $38.6 million didn't just make that person's life better. It was supposed to replace the irreplaceable, the loss of life of their son, Trayvon. That is not something that is comprehensible. So just be mindful of this. The next time we do bring up things like the Affordable Healthcare Act, this is why it's so pertinent for us as Americans to stay on top of these stories.
Yeah, and the other thing is, don't you dare limit it, legislature, the damage awards and then judges want to, oh, that's too much. Who are you to say? Then why have a jury, okay? The other reason that I think Emory should have to pay big here is because I don't know how deep it went, but it sounds to me like they even pulled an okie doke. You potentially could have killed this patient, and then you just faked the funk. And then you charged him for it. Have you no shame? Have you no shame? Is this like, hey, we do what we want? And I happen to know this, that Emory doesn't generally settle. Now, they settled that big one after the verdict. They go the distance. That is their policy, to keep people from filing against them, to keep people from being whole. And you can't be whole, like Tehran said. You're not going to be whole. You lose your 20-year-old son. They lose a body part. I happen to think people deserve it. So we wish them the best. We'll keep following this story. Shame. If any part of that's true, shame, Emory.